points, and Kentucky is missing its point guard, who goes down with 16 minutes in the first half to go, who leads the SEC in assists. You get pretty much an entire half without Oscar Tshiebwe to deal with, and you get not only do you get that, then you get to deal with not having Ty Washington most of the second half for Kentucky, and you manage to get a mere 5-point win at home, nonetheless, against a depleted Kentucky Wildcats roster, basically depleted. Now, obviously, Jacob Toppin had himself quite a half, and not to mention Kellen Grady, who was colder than my freezer in there in the first half, then heats up in the second half and hits, 3 or 4 threes in the second half there for the Cats. But congratulations, it must feel really good. You guys gonna get to jerk each other off down there. Talk about, oh, we beat Kentucky. Well, I can't wait until LSU comes to Rupp Arena and we wax you guys off the floor in Lexington. But let's talk a little bit about the game here. Jacob Toppin had a really good first half, like I said a while ago. He really came in. He was huge in this game, especially in a game where Keon Brooks didn't seem like his usual self. Oscar Tshiebwe goes to the bench and spends most of the first half there as well. Gets some really good minutes out of Lance Ware. But for the most part, and then in the second half there, like I said, Kellen Grady was cold in the first half. In the second half, Kellen Grady warms up for the Cats and really starts hitting some shots. But, and anybody that knows me knows how much I really hate blaming officials. And granted, Kentucky missed, 10 free throws tonight, or whatever, 10 or 11 free throws. Kentucky was not good from the free throw line at all tonight. And normally, Kentucky's been a pretty good free throw shooting team, but some of the guys who did miss those, like Lance Ware, who can't shoot free throws very well, he missed 4 of those was him. Normally Oscar is pretty good from the free throw line as well, and I think he missed 3 himself. So that was very uncharacteristic of Kentucky tonight. But I want to say something. 2022 needs to start being the year where we hold referees accountable. This is getting absolutely ridiculous, in my opinion. LSU may be the number 1 defense in this league, and not only in this defense, but in the nation. It's easy to be the number 1 defense in the nation. And now, granted, the referees called a lot of fouls in LSU tonight, and it was probably only 30% of the fouls that LSU committed tonight. That was ridiculous. Of course, you can always be the number 1 defense when you're being able to, every time somebody goes by, you're able to shoulder check them every single time they walk by. It's absolutely ridiculous. Able to put 2 hands on the offensive ball carrier all the time. And the sad thing is, you even got Jay Billis over there talking about how terrible this officiating basically is without saying that it's terrible. But I must say, anybody who watched that game tonight knows who the better team is between those two. And like I said, no Wheeler, no Ty for a second half, and no Oscar Tshiebwe in the first half. Everybody who watched that game knows who the better team is. And when these two teams play later in Rupp Arena this year, you know for a fact Kentucky's going to be looking to get some revenge in this game here. And I always say revenge is a dish best served blue. But you've got to be absolutely kidding me. Even if you're LSU, how can you even be excited about a win like that? The sad thing is, I'm actually kind of at a loss for words when it comes to this. Like I said, referees need to start. Needs to be the start year where referees start being held accountable for things. Referees need to start being asked questions at the end of the games, like coaches and players, because this has gotten absolutely out of hand. I mean, if you're an officiating team who calls things tight, call them tight on both sides. Now, if you're a team who, if you're a referee crew who likes to let teams play, then let them play on both sides. It is time, in my opinion, for referees to start being held accountable, and time for referees to start answering questions at the end of games like, why did you call this here? we thought this was a pretty questionable call. It's time for this to happen, and I think that the simple grading them later on to determine if they get postseason games or not is just not enough anymore. And I just think it's time that we really need to start holding referees accountable. And now, I'm not sitting around blaming this loss on the referees at all. I just wanted to bring about how poor I thought the officiating was in this game. There's lots of different reasons why Kentucky lost this game tonight. First off, Kentucky had a 9-point lead, despite not having Wheeler, despite all the not having. I think Ty might have still been in the game at the time. I'm not exactly sure when Ty went down with the cramps and wasn't really able to come back in. When he did come in, it was just he was just filling in on the court. But at one point, Kentucky did have a 9-point lead in this game. And it looked like Kentucky was going to run away with it. But the offense, without Wheeler, it stalled. LSU did a much better job at stopping Kellen Grady. And then guys like Darius Days and Tari Easton, those two guys started making some really good plays for LSU down the stretch. But, then they end up going on. Kentucky ends up scoring 5 minutes without scoring, I think, any points. You just can't have that happen in any basketball game at any level. You just can't go 5+ minutes without scoring a basket. And some of that had to do with the reason why they're scoring baskets was LSU straight up fouling our players and it not getting called. Straight up fouls. I mean, I don't want to go off on that tangent again, but call fouls. I mean, if you're going to call it one way the entire game. But that, like I said, get back to my point before I go off on that tangent again. Kentucky had a 9-point lead, and it looked like they were going to blow away, pull away, and then then you had Darius Day and East and all them start making really good plays to get LSU back in the game. Eventually take a lead where Kentucky doesn't score for a good 5+ minutes or something like that. You just can't have that happen at any level, like I was saying. But even with all that going on, Kentucky still had a chance to win this game at the end. So, I get what's going to happen. It's going to be Kentucky's third loss of the year. They're going to be 0-2 on the road. It's going to be they can't win on the road. But given all the circumstances the Cats dealt with tonight, you can't sit around and tell me that you think LSU is the better team. And it's going to be the better team a month from now, 2 weeks from now, come March. There's not one person who watched that game is going to sit there and say LSU's better than Kentucky. Not one person. And if you do, you're pretty much blind. Or you don't know one single thing about basketball. Because that Kentucky, LSU didn't deserve to win that game. Period, point blank. LSU didn't deserve to win that game. And I'm not necessarily saying Kentucky deserved to win either. They missed a bunch of free throws as well. But what ultimately broke the camel's back in this was it like a 20-2 run LSU went? No, I don't think it was quite that high. But I know at one point it was a 15-2 run that LSU went on. That was really what broke the camel's back. That's about all I got. Before I go off on some other tangent. Let's see. It's what I think LSU and the refs.